Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Welcome into Batter Up, part of the Sports Insanity Network, sponsored by Halpern's Cards and Collectibles. I am Mike Rifkin, joined by Danny Boy Original Dan Rines. Dan, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mike Rifkin. It's a great day. Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to
Happy
all the
Mother's Day,
moms out there.
moms.
Please, my mom, I love you. I miss you. I'll see you in a couple of weeks when we have family in town. So that's going to be an awesome thing to celebrate. And yeah, I can't wait to see you. But wanted to send my regards to you on this great day.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, especially if you're listening or watching this, But today's Mother's Day, Dan, and we talked beforehand about you and your mom had a conversation because yesterday you did something that I don't want to say was unprecedented, but it was something that you could have had a lot more fun doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So yesterday, I thought about going up and surprising my mom. My mom would have loved that, but she understood that there's nothing, that there's nothing much I can do, no money and everything. And I'm already spending a ton going to the trip to New York later in the month and stuff. So that would have been a nice thing, but I decided not to go with it. I decided to go to the Mets Nationals game. I went with a friend of mine, one of my coworkers. Shout out to producer Nick of WJLA TV in Washington. And and I went there just to have fun. Shoot the what, watch the Mets stink it up like they have been for the past few weeks. Watch the Nats stink it up like they have the entire season. It was going to be a battle of bad teams and everything. It was just going to be a fun time. It's baseball. Everyone loves baseball. But then, and look, because the game started about 4:05, by the 40-minute mark, they called it off because it was raining. Now, the rain was pretty bad. I mean, it wasn't as bad. It was drizzling at first, but then it just kept getting harder and harder and harder to deal with. And it got to a point where, the infield was unplayable. Even the outfielders had trouble tracking down the ball because of the rain and slipping, possible that stuff. And by around 4:45, they decided to call it for the time being and then put the tarp on and let everything subside and stuff. And that's what happened. The rain stopped at around 6 something. It was not raining anymore. And they started to treat the field like they usually do. They take off the tarp, the excess water goes into the outfield drains it, and then you treat the infield, and then you get it playable, and you go about the game. However, and this is where I started to get concerned, they kept treating the field. They put a lot of the excess dirt on that field to soak up the water and the moisture, all that stuff. And yet the managers kept coming out. No one's coming into the dugout. We're not hearing anything from the Nationals. We're not hearing anything from the Mets. We're not hearing anything from Major League Baseball. And Davey Martinez, Buck Showalter, they're coming out, meeting with the umpires. They're walking around, surveying the field, and they keep going back to the dugout, which is telling me that the surface is still unplayable. So then they continued to put more dirt on the field, treat the field, make sure there's no muddy spots and everything. They kept surveying the field, the two managers, and they kept going back to the dugout after talking with the umpires. And there was just no word, but you can tell that they were concerned about the surface. And the moment I knew that this game was going to be suspended was when the bullpen people, because they were carrying all the bullpen stuff in their bags and stuff. When the Mets people, they carry the bags from the bullpen. It was about 3 people, walked into the dugout and went back into the clubhouse. That was not a good sign. That's when I knew something was up. But then, yet again, for another hour and a half, we did not hear anything. So we're thinking, okay, well, what's the decision? Well, what are they going to do? Are they going to play the game? Are they going to wait till tomorrow and probably do a straight doubleheader? So about an hour or so after, hour and a half maybe after that all transpired, again, no one's coming on the field, not hearing anything from the Nats, from baseball, from Mets, nobody saying anything. They finally come to the decision to have a doubleheader on Sunday, which, look, if the surface is not playable, it's fine. Like, it is what it is. Look, the Washington Nationals are terrible when it comes to rain delays anyway. They're notoriously bad at this. Like, this is a history thing. The Nats have never been good at rain delays. But the surface isn't playable. It is what it is. But to not hear anything for nearly 4 hours, and for baseball and the Nats to have the nerve to make it a split doubleheader on a Sunday,
on Mother's Day,
it's so stupid, crazy, comical, unprecedented. Like, it just goes with the incompetence of the ball club that is in Washington. Like, how can you decide on this? And the Mets are not, they're not getting a pass here too, because they also were part of that decision. So the Mets are not getting a pass. The Nats are at fault here for allowing the game to go on as long as it did. The umpires are at fault for not calling for the tarp earlier. It was just a whole mess. You cannot allow a split doubleheader of a suspended game. Like, it doesn't make any sense, Mike Rifkin.
So just to explain to the people who are going to listen and are watching us now, what a split doubleheader means is if you had a ticket to yesterday's game, you had entry for the first part of today. But then you would have to either get a second ticket for the second part of the doubleheader, or you just straight up leave the ballpark.
Right.
So you're charging fans twice who have already paid. Now, most people, I'm presuming, who went to the ballpark yesterday had plans today because it's Mother's Day.
Yeah.
But the thing that gets me, Dan, and you said it was mainly a drizzle beforehand when the game first started.
Mm-hmm.
Even if that's the case, the radar would show that there's a big storm coming. Just delay the start of the game.
Yeah.
Even argument's sake, you go, okay, we said the game was going to start at 4:00. We're pushing it back to 7 because we know what's coming. The field will be playable. People are already in the ballpark. They're not going to leave, more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get that part from the umpires, the grounds crew, and MLB. But then just to put on top of it, oh, by the way, now if you have a ticket for yesterday coming today, you have to get a second ticket if you want to stay for the second game. Why would I make the drive back to watch 6 innings of baseball?
Yeah, that's another thing that I just don't understand. And I know the new COVID rules that have been passed on since, that have just been moved on ever since 2020. The new rules is that there's no longer a restart to a game. You have to pick it up from where it left off, no matter where it left off. You cannot have the first game be a piece of a game and for it to be a split doubleheader. You cannot allow them to be like, well, we'll honor the tickets for Saturday, for Sunday's early game, and you're only going to get 5 innings or 6 innings. Like, it doesn't make any sense. That is just stupidity upon a Major League Baseball for them to allow that to happen.
I want to ask you this because you were there. If you couldn't make the game today, did they offer a voucher? Did they offer anything, or did they just say
all parking passes, all tickets are honored for the early game?
No, but I'm saying if you couldn't make it for the early game today,
no,
are you just straight out of luck?
No, you are SOL.
And that's brutal.
Like,
that's brutal.
You cannot do that
job
to the
by baseball.
You can't do that to the baseball fan.
No, I think we love baseball, so we can talk baseball. But I think without a doubt, baseball has lost general popularity. Here's an example of why baseball has lost popularity. Because you've put yourself in a position where, okay, the Nationals are saying, I'm going to profit twice off of this with the parking and this. By the way, we're putting a crap product out on the field,
Mm-hmm.
And Major League Baseball's, no, we don't care. I know this is going to cost every owner at this point. And I read, I think this was the Post, every ballpark, just put a retractable roof over every park. If we can figure that out.
Yeah.
That way, rain delays are a thing of the past. And there is no impact. Just a retractable roof over every freaking ballpark. I kind of if you're building a new park, I think it should be mandatory that a retractable roof be installed. But I don't know.
It's a shame.
It pissed me off because I'm waiting here for hours, just waiting to see if the game gets restarted.
Yeah, it's a shame. It is a real shame. And look, the rain stopped completely. Like, I don't think it rained for the rest of the night. Like, it was pretty dry out there. But again, the field the field wasn't playable, and again, it just goes back to the decision to start the game. Like, if you knew who was going to get bad, and this is it's a big problem. It's a huge problem that baseball has. Like, it really is, and it's a shame. Met fans were not happy, Mike, about this. I was at the game. There were a lot. I mean, the Nationals fans weren't very thrilled either. Like, they're like, well, what are we doing? What are we waiting for? But the people that were the most upset were the Met fans, because
especially if you traveled from New York to DC.
This is one of their only times that they come to DC. That this won't be the only time. They'll probably be back for another series later on in the season. But this might be their only chance to see them when they're in town. And they were livid, and rightfully so. Like, everyone in the ballpark was getting pretty restless, and it was majority Met fans anyway. So it was pretty bad. And Mets Twitter was also like going nuts over this. Like, they were ripping the Nats ground crew, they were ripping the umpire, ripping the Nationals organization in general. Like, it just a really, really, really embarrassing job by Washington.
The thing that would make this whole thing better, and it wouldn't resolve all the issues, is if you let the fans know what is going on.
Yeah.
There
had to have been some transparency.
Right. And that's all we want. Because I think Buck Showalter said last night the reason why he kept coming back out was to see if they could actually play. And then they found out the whole field was unplayable.
Yeah.
But again, that is on the umpires and the grounds crew because you let it rain so hard and so much that the field and the dirt absorbed so much water that no matter how much excessive dirt you put on, won't have an impact.
Yeah, and of course you don't want to waste so much dirt supply for the season, like just for that one game. It just it, it just means it was a brutal thing to watch.
I mean, you told me in text that Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling on SNY went off about it. So if you have that audio, you could play it really quickly, because if the broadcasters are fed up and the fans are fed up, nobody wins in this situation.
Yeah. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
Okay.
It's gonna be a tough thing to do.
Just give us a second here, folks.
Yeah, let me see if I can get that audio real quick. I think I can. Here we are. Yeah, this is what Gary, Keith, and Ron had to say, and it was spot on pretty much.
And we just got this information that today's game has been suspended and will be part of a split doubleheader tomorrow, which is unprecedented to have the completion of a suspended game part of a split doubleheader. So after a galling nearly 4 hours of waiting, including the last half hour where absolutely nothing was happening in terms of trying to get the field ready, that all the work had been done, now they make the decision to play a split doubleheader tomorrow with the resumption of the first game at 12:35 and the second game starting at 4:35. And what I'm assuming is that for the last half hour, that was the communication between the Nationals and the Mets and Major League Baseball to get permission to do this, which, as far as I'm concerned, has never been done before, that you're giving a piece of a game to the fans as part of a split doubleheader as opposed to playing straight through and making it a single admission.
A piece of a game has now become a full game for the fans that choose to attend. I've never heard of anything like this ever happening, and to wait 4 hours for these folks. You saw the boos, you saw unhappiness. You can't hear how loud and how unhappy they are here tonight.
Absolutely. And for me, to take this long to come to a decision, it's just, and make these people wait out here without any clue, I don't know. That's to me is unconscionable.
It's really a shameful episode on the part of Major League Baseball to permit this to happen, and then to come to this kind of a resolution to charge fans twice tomorrow rather than playing straight through with the completion of suspended games. So that'll do it for us here, with the Mets trailing the game 1-0 in the third inning. They'll be batting with runners at second and third and one out in the top of the third when the game resumes tomorrow at 12:35, and then the regular game will be played at 4:35.
Courtesy of SportsNet New York, Mike Rifkin.
Yeah.
Oh man.
They're 100% right. And I think Gary nails it on the head, especially when he says you're charging the fans twice. You are charging the fans twice. And by the way, I don't know. I've never been to Nationals Park, but parking's not cheap.
It's not. Like, it really isn't, dude.
Right. And then think about it. If you're going to go for the 6 innings of the first game and then the 9 innings of the second game, you're talking however much it is for food also, because you need to eat. It's just, it's a terrible job by Major League Baseball, but I can't say I'm surprised.
I mean, Major League Baseball has pulled crap like this before, where fans had to, without any updates or anything, have had to wait hours and hours on end for a game to start. This happened in the playoffs last year with the Yankees.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up.
You know, and again, this just goes back to the incompetence of Rob Manfred as commissioner. It does. Look, they figured out how to make the game shorter. Yeah, that's great. What about every other aspect of the game, including when you have weather issues throughout the game?
The thing that gets me is the umpire have a microphone when a challenge is made.
Yeah.
To say, call stands, call overturn, whatever. Use the microphone to let the fans know what's going on during this episode. Because let's be honest, if there's no communication between them and, I mean, in the audio clip we just played, Gary Cohen basically said, we had no idea what was going on. Mm-hmm. Apparently they were standing on the field for a half hour with nothing going on.
Yeah.
So you have to let the fans know what's going on too. Otherwise, you're gonna keep losing the popularity that you've been losing continuously.
I mean, look, it just embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing. Of course, everyone else is going off on Twitter. You can look at Mets Twitter; they're just livid throughout the entire day, and a lot of stuff we can't really show on our channel. But just an absolute disgrace. And how do you come back from that? Like, really? Like, how do you make it up to the public after that?
Well, if you couldn't make the game today, you would offer a voucher for another game.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's going to happen, if the Nationals decide to do that or not. Because let's be real honest, the Nationals aren't a team that's going to sell out every night.
Exactly.
They're not in that position. So,
by the way,
might as well give the voucher.
Yep. Excuse me. By the way, the only person for the Nationals to actually apologize to the fans, and I love this guy, Davey Martinez. He's the only person to apologize to the fans for having to wait that long and all that stuff, and to waste our times and everything. It was a disaster. The Nationals gave no updates. If you go on their Twitter, there's nothing from the rain delay start to like 10 o'clock. Mike Rifkin, nothing.
And that's when they called the game. It's sad. It's a sad situation. That game will resume in about an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll play a second game at about 4:30.
Yeah, and this will be a full game.
Now, the break they get, the Nationals here, is that this isn't a getaway day because the Mets and Nationals will also play an afternoon game tomorrow.
Right.
So if this was a getaway day, I wonder if something would have changed. Exactly. But because they have that extra game tomorrow, I wonder how that played an impact. But again, we were never notified of anything, so we don't know what happened.
Yeah. Brutal. Just brutal job by the Nationals. Mets don't get a pass either because they allowed that to happen. And then, of course, the biggest one at fault here is Major League Baseball for not being in contact sooner, one. And then two, not truly monitoring the situation. You know, like the leadership from baseball this is where you show true leadership here for baseball. This is where you have to be like, no, this is not going to happen. This is unacceptable. You guys cannot do it. And once again, just incompetence.
Yeah, Rob Manfred, this is where you make your money, not in pitch clocks, not in bigger bases. It's about making decisions like these that, this is what agitates the baseball fan.
Yeah.
All right. So, look, again, retractable roofs everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, Steve Cohen wants to build one.
Steve Cohen has talked about building one, so we'll see what happens. But I think baseball should fund them. I really do. But
Yeah, billion-dollar
digress.
corporation. Billion-dollar corporation.
Digress.
They can do it.
If you believe, if you build it, they will come.
Mhm.
All right. Speaking of building things, expansion of Major League Baseball has taken a turn. Pat Williams, one of the co-founders of the Orlando Magic, would like to see a team in Orlando. He's part of a group called the Orlando Dreamers, designed to get a Major League Baseball team in Orlando. They are seeking funding for a $1.7 billion ballpark. Dan, is Orlando a good spot to get an expansion team?
I think anywhere in Florida can be a good spot if they are really into it. And I believe Orlando, they love sports there. They have the Magic. The Magic, when the Magic are good, they draw a good crowd. They're really passionate fan base about that. Orlando City, the soccer team, they also draw a good crowd for their matches. So I think Orlando is a good sports town. I think it'd be a really cool baseball city. But how would you get the baseball team? Would you get it via the Tampa Bay Rays, who have nowhere to play other than the Trop, which is a dump, and not making a lot of money? Or would you get it via expansion? So then you would have to pay Major League Baseball at least $1 billion, maybe a little more than that, to be awarded a franchise. And then, of course, on top of that, you have to build $1 billion stadium, which was proposed by this Orlando Dreamers group. They already have a site in mind, and they already have renderings of what the stadium may look like. It's a huge like playland type of thing that they have going. So I honestly don't know if that's ever going to get built, but that's I mean that's part of the process, right? You got to dream big a little bit.
Yeah, got to dream big. According to Google, Orlando to Tampa is about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to move the Rays, you could do that because the Rays, you're right, need a new ballpark. But if you're not going to move the Rays, I'm not in favor of Orlando for this reason. Nobody goes to Rays games unless the Yankees or Red Sox are in town. And nobody goes to Marlins games unless it's the Mets, or the Phillies, even the Braves. So unless one of those big market teams is coming in, those teams don't particularly sell well. And the Rays have the best record of baseball right
Yeah, I mean the state of Florida in terms of professional sports isn't very good at it, at the sports.
No.
I mean, I what I'm saying is that out of all the markets, I think Orlando's probably the most passionate when it comes to sports. Miami's not passionate sports town. You know this from the Dolphins. Like they're a dreadful fan base, the Miami Dolphins.
You'll see more road jerseys than home.
Yeah. Miami Heat, we saw with the Knicks Heat. I mean, it was no contest. The Madison Square Garden crowd obliterated the Miami Heat crowd. Not even close. And then, to add even more things to perspective, the most that they draw in Tampa Bay is for the Lightning. And even then, sometimes I question whether that's a real true crowd.
That's fair, because until they won, but I've always felt if you're going to put a third, I don't like the idea of a third team in a state, unless it's California, which is freaking huge, and because you got the Padres, Dodgers, Angels, Giants, so on and so forth. So I think there are other cities I'd like to see. Nashville would be cool. I wouldn't mind seeing Montreal if they can get that done, but
yeah,
who knows? I would have said Vegas, but the A's deal looks like that's coming through.
Yeah, though they had to pivot again. you saw that they pivoted to another site.
Put a new team in Oakland that's not the A's.
Exactly.
You have the fan base. They just need the ballpark.
They need a ballpark, and they need an owner that's committed to Oakland, which I think is salvageable. I think Oakland is salvageable, by the way. I don't think Oakland, look, I know Oakland's a dump and stuff. City's a dump, the stadium's a dump. But if you have someone that's committed to a franchise that could rebuild Oakland as a sports city, like I'm all for it. Like, I don't like sports towns losing their teams. Like that's just not me. I come from a big sports town. We come from a big sports town. So it's like, it doesn't make any sense.
Steph Curry, if you're listening to this, and I know that you are, you should become the majority owner of the new team in Oakland.
Yeah.
I mean that would work.
Yeah. Now Montreal's interesting. I love the idea of Montreal. Here's why. Not only will you have, this is just for broadcasting purposes, not only will you have an English Canadian deal, but you'll have a French Canadian deal, which will bring in a ton of money. I don't care what anyone says. That brings in a ton of Canadian dollars and American dollars too. And you expand your fan base in Canada. A lot of it's Toronto Blue Jays, which is fine. It is what it is. But then now you're adding a Montreal to it. Now you create this Canadian rivalry. And let's say you put them in the American League East. Holy crap. Now you have division rivals in Canada. Like, solid.
And the other part is you could have a built-in rivalry with whatever you call them. I'm going to call them the Expos just because they'll always be the Expos, and the Nationals because the Nationals took over for the Expos,
right?
And they relocate. So that's another rivalry you'd have right off the bat. How dare you leave us when we supported you?
And if the Expos ever come back, like, well, what history would they take? Would they take the Tampa Bay Rays history, or would they try to reclaim the Expos history too, and sort of do a combined thing?
So if not moving the Rays, then I think you would take the old Expos.
Yeah. So then this is an interesting conversation. This is the one that I kind of wrestle with because the Rays and the Expos existed at the same time. So because I just feel like Montreal baseball history should exist, and it does with the Nationals and all that stuff. But the Gary Carters, the Tim Raines, like you want that. Yeah, you want that in Montreal. You don't want that in Washington. Washington has its own thing.
The other part about it is the Hall of Fame is a museum of what greatness exists. The Washington Nationals, I'm using air quotes for a reason, they're probably not going to see a Hall of Fame player go in probably until Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
I get it, Scherzer, but I think Scherzer could go in as a Tiger if he wanted.
He's going to go in as a Tiger.
Right. So they're not going to see a Hall of Famer until Bryce Harper, the Nationals.
Yeah.
The Expos, you have a Tim Raines, you have a Vlad, you have Gary Carter, Larry Walker. I know he went in as a Rocky, but he played for the Montreal Expos as well.
Even for Pedro Martinez,
Pedro. There's a whole list of guys who are in the Hall of Fame who have a legacy as the Montreal Expos. So if you were to recreate the Expos, there's already a standing legacy.
Yeah.
And so I think that if they can get the ballpark, if they can get the funding in Montreal, I think that'd be perfect. Because one thing about Montreal, and I know from the Canadians, passionate fan base, 100%. They know what's going on. They pay attention. They know what's there. I kind of feel like that's a great spot. Just put them in Montreal. Let's see how it works. Because I always felt near the end with the Expos, it was hard because the Expos were also playing some series in Puerto Rico. They were doing some other things. And then it just came out, oh, we're going to Washington. And Montreal hasn't sniffed baseball since.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's interesting. It's an
yeah.
interesting point. Nashville also isn't a bad idea, but the problem with Nashville is that to me it doesn't strike me as a baseball city. It just doesn't. Now that they can obviously become a baseball city, they can always do that.
Who would have thought they'd become a hockey town? Those are great fans for the Preds.
Yeah. I mean, certainly you get a lot of the country music buzz.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool for baseball, and all that stuff. But I don't know. It's an interesting town. They can tear down that Titans stadium and put a baseball stadium there. I mean,
yeah, the Titans are getting a new stadium sooner rather than later. I believe.
And that's another thing. Like, do they want more public funds to go into a baseball stadium?
Or would the Titans and whoever the team is have to share a stadium? Which, again, who knows?
I don't know.
We'll see how baseball goes about that.
Yeah, multi-purpose stadiums don't really exist anymore.
Yeah, it's true. The Coliseum was probably the last one in Oakland.
Yeah.
Did mention this briefly, but there is a legislative deal for the Las Vegas ballpark and the A's. A bill is set to be drafted and filed early next week. So,
and in that case, it's where I believe it's the site of the Tropicana. Yeah. So then they would tear that down, build a new baseball stadium, and then the hotel, wherever the hell I'm thinking is.
It apparently would have a view of the Vegas Strip.
Yeah. And then whatever the new place that they're going to rebuild that place, they're probably going to build it somewhere within the mile of the Strip or whatever. But yeah, that's already a pivot that the A's, that the original site, I think, had a bit of an issue to get through. So now, that's the whole thing. But seems like A's to Las Vegas is more and more serious as the days go.
Yeah. So that gamble looks like it'll pay off for the A's, but
yeah.
On to some sadder, tougher news. Last night in the Philly Rocky game, you said?
Yeah.
Is when a line drive hit a pitcher in the head. I don't remember the name. I apologize.
Ryan Feltner, I believe.
Ryan Feltner. Okay.
Yeah.
And then last week in the A's Royals game, KC pitcher Ryan Yarborough was hit in the head by 106 mile per hour comebacker. So, we've talked a lot about concussions and how scary they are when it comes to football. I think it might be time to go back to the protection for pitchers in Major League Baseball, Dan.
It should have been a conversation a long time ago. And look, I'm all for, old school baseball and all that stuff. But this pitchers getting hit by line drives, it's not a new thing. Like, we've seen it happen before. And it is dangerous, man. Like, you don't even, because what if it hits you in an area of your head and something were to happen to you, a brain bleed, or God forbid? Like, these are things you can't recover from unless you have a helmet, like a protective helmet there, or even like some type of protection on your cap, or whatever it is, whatever they can do to make it safer for the pitcher. Because even though it's rare that it happens. It happens enough where the conversation has to be had.
And with what we know now about brain injuries and concussions, I think it's something that should be mandated. And the conversations have to take place. Player safety has to matter. There, I say it all the time when it comes to football, because there's life after football. There's life after any sport. And the amount of, listen, you got rid of pitchers using the sticky substances because you didn't want guys to, get hit in the head and whatnot. Now it's time to protect the pitchers.
Yeah.
And you have to figure that out, whether a helmet or a different kind of ball cap. I'm not going to say like a pitchback screen kind of deal, because if it hits it and it ricochets, who knows what happens. But some sort of protection needs to occur. That way, these scary situations never occur. Once in a while, it can happen, but twice in 1 week is bad. So,
yeah. Feldner is in the hospital getting further evaluated, officially hospitalized. Again, that's just absolutely scary. Yarbrough, how is he doing? Is he okay? Is anyone...
let me see if I can see. See 1 second. I'm looking to see if they did anything, if they've announced anything.
Okay. Well, I mean, the bottom line is it's dangerous.
Yes.
You have to consider the safety of the pitcher now. Like there's just no other way to look at it. And
so the team announced that he had some head fractures. That he's on the injured list.
Okay. Well, the poor guy.
He is stable and improving and never lost consciousness. The Royals said in a statement, he sustained multiple non-displaced fractures, and we do not believe he will need surgery. He's undergoing more testing, and we will share progress. This is from USA Today on May 8th. So this is about 6 days old, but that's the latest I've got. I don't know if the Royals have put anything out since.
Yeah. See, there you go, right there. Head fractures, like you never know. It could hit you in the wrong spot.
Yeah. Yeah. So our thoughts are with Feltner and Yarbrough.
Yeah.
And again, something baseball's going to have to work on. But all right. Some key series to watch this upcoming week. Dan, the Yankees go to Toronto to play the Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm.
So, two teams in the mighty AL East, where everyone's over 500
and playing well.
Yeah.
Oh, and doing a great job. Obviously the Blue Jays are no cookie, but the Yankees, they got back Aaron Judge, and it took him a few at bats, but now Aaron Judge is cooking. He had 2 home runs on Saturday, one that obviously was the big home run to give them the lead, and for good. And it's to me, this is exactly what the Yankee lineup is designed for. If you have Aaron Judge cooking, you have Rizzo cooking, and everyone else doing their job. Volpe with the small ball. Did you see how Volpe's at bat? I think it was yesterday. He bunted for a single. Great bunt. Bunted for a single. Stole second, stole third, wild pitch, went home. Baseball. He created his own damn run. So it's stuff like that the Yankees should be focusing on. A lot of small ball and all that stuff. And then you have your big guns like Rizzo and Judge that could give you home runs for the extra pad.
And the other guy who's been really good since come back has been Bader.
Bader has been terrific too. Singles and doubles, LeMahieu singles and doubles. Like, this is what the Yankee lineup is made to be. It's not made for the home run. It's not made for big time. It's made for stuff like this. You just get on base, you get a chance. So good that the Yankees are starting to hit a little more. So far, they've taken 2 from the Rays. Rays obviously had 1. And now they have the series finale on a Sunday. And the hope is that the Yankees would take the series from them and really send a message to the Rays that they're that even though it was a great start, a little overrated. So yeah, I like where the Yankees are at. Going to Toronto is not going to be easy. That division is really tough. But if the Yankees continue to have this type of lineup and continue to do exactly what they're doing, there should be no problems. It's going to be a good series. And then your pitching has to stay up to par. Nestor had a good day. Cole's had a good day. A little shaky his last start, but still, like he still is the ace of the staff, Garrett Cole. So no doubt about it.
So the Yankees will go to Toronto this week. The Mariners go to Fenway. The Mariners have been red hot. They've won, I think it's 5 in a row on the road.
Yeah.
They're playing some good ball.
Pretty much ever since that Astros game where they came back to win against the Astros. Like, that's what really got them started. And
their young pitching has been so good.
Oh my God. See, I'm jealous of Seattle's pitching, man.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm jealous of Seattle, period. They're a young squad. Like, they're gonna grow together. They're gonna, they're possibly gonna win a lot of championships if they can keep up.
If they can keep all of those guys and they can keep them healthy, they're the team. Them and the Orioles, I look at and go, take a page from the Braves. Sign some of these guys long term now.
Yeah.
That way you're not in a position to where you have to pay them massive amounts of dollars later. So this guy, outside of Julio Rodriguez, give George Kirby this, Miller this, Logan Gilbert, whatever. They have it. The Red Sox are also playing pretty good ball right now. I know they've lost the first 2 to the Cardinals after Kenley Jansen blew 2 saves after getting his 400th save.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Kenley, on 400 saves. So Mariners, Reds.
Yeah, and the likes of Caballero or Crawford, people that can come up in big spots too. Like the Mariners up and down the line is pretty dope. Like, it really is.
Jared Kalenick's had a nice year so far.
Yeah.
So the Mariners have something. They broke the playoff drought last year. They're not going to go away this year. So. Speaking of the AL West, you got the Rangers, and they'll take on the Braves this week in what should be a fun interleague series.
Braves losing to Toronto, that must have been very exciting for y'all.
Listen, if there's any time to get the Braves, it's now, because Max Fried's on the injured list and Kyle Wright's on the injured list.
Yeah.
But they can just mash with anybody.
Yeah.
Olsen, Acuna, Albies, and then Austin Riley. Then, we got Sean Murphy from Oakland in the offseason. All he did was rake against the Mets also. So the lineup the Braves have is fantastic. The bullpen's really good. I still think they are the class of the National League. I just do. And Texas is trying to become the class of the American League, but Bruce Bochy said earlier this week they don't think they'll have Jacob deGrom back for another 2 to 3 weeks.
That's a tough thing to swallow. You give that guy a big contract, and you expect him to be, informed just like he was with the Mets. But then, of course, you realize, oh crap! Well, Jacob deGrom missed a lot of time these last couple of years with the Mets.
Yeah.
So he has been an injury concern this entire time. Now it's even bigger concern, and he cannot miss big time games this season. Before you know it, it's going to be in the summer dog days. You're gonna gotta see where your team is at. You're talking playoff races. It's not something that you want if you're Texas. So 2-3 weeks, but then of course you got rehab starts, and then let's see after that. So you're looking about a month, and he's already been out about a month.
Yeah, he's made 6 starts on the year. So
yeah, brutal.
And then finally, we got a battle of 2 first-place teams when the Twins go to LA to play the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Twins, it's interesting with the Twins. Can they get it going too against the Dodgers? I think so. I don't think anyone should be afraid of the Dodgers. Like, that team doesn't scare me a lot, not as much as they used to. And Minnesota is at the top of their game right now. So this should be a great time for them to get on a big streak and stuff. I know the Dodgers are on a massive winning streak, 4 games, but they don't scare me, Mike. This is not a Dodgers team that scares me anymore. I think the league is starting to figure them out a little bit.
They don't scare you, but the thing for me is they're going to do something. I'm talking 2 months from now when the trade deadline hits. They're going to do something that's going to, I'm not going to say it's going to shake everything up, but they're going to do something that's going to be a massive move. Because, listen, Freeman's eventually going to hit. Mookie Betts is eventually going to hit. They have other guys, but then the pitching staff, Arias, Clayton Kershaw's been great to start the year.
Yeah.
And Dustin May. I wonder if they add a little something to the back end of that rotation. But I'm also not sure if maybe they consider adding another bat. Because, I think the National League has a lot of pretty good teams, but they don't have these elite monsters like we thought. The Mets aren't playing that way yet. The Phillies haven't played that way yet. They're trying to get there. The Padres haven't gotten there yet, and they'll eventually get there. So really, the Braves are the one team you've got to be careful of right now.
Yeah.
But come later in the year, who knows what it looks like. But the Dodgers have a winning pedigree. The Twins, I'm trying to figure them out because I think right now, the Twins are just a really good team in a really cruddy division.
Yeah.
The White Sox suck. The Tigers were playing better, but I don't think they're a threat. The Royals stink, and the White Sox are still the biggest disappointment in baseball. So,
and that's my thing. How can they get it going outside of the AL Central and the American League? That is it's a tough American League, but not so much of a tough National League.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you take the Twins seriously is basically what I'm asking. And again, I think you can. But it's just a matter of just getting everything right for the Twins. You gotta get your bet. Their hitting has to get right, which I think it's right there, but not quite there. Pitching is solid. I don't have any issues with the Twins pitching stuff.
If Byron Buxton can stay healthy all year, because Carlos Correa, who said earlier in the week the fans should be booing me because I'm not playing well. Carlos Correa is going to pick it up because he's that kind of guy.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not worried about Correa.
But if Buxton can stay healthy,
yes,
that's the difference maker.
Mm-hmm.
Because Joey Gallo, for whatever reasons, has had a resurgence of a year, whatever the reason may be.
He's been here, and of course, Joey Gallo, he leaves the Yankees, he leaves the Dodgers, where he was mediocre at best, and then he goes to the Twins and he absolutely rakes
Well,
it. Of
some
course.
guys don't thrive in that kind of spotlight, so I maybe that's the reason. But you're right. The Twins pitching's been really good. Joe Ryan's been good. Sonny Gray's been. Sonny Gray shows you why it's always sunny in Minnesota. But
Yeah.
they did lose Tyler Mahle, but they could replace that arm if they need be.
Yeah, they can get a young guy, like a young guy that can be the back in the rotation and give you a quality start at the best quality start.
If you're going to ask me where I stack them in the American League, I'm not sure where they stack up in terms of teams in the AL East, because I don't think they're better than Tampa. I don't think they're better than Toronto. I'm not sure if they're better than the Orioles or the Yankees. Maybe they're a little bit better than Boston. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the Twins are certainly better, in my honest opinion. I think the Twins are certainly better than Houston. Houston's not good. They have not been playing well. I think Minnesota is better than Texas. I think they're better than Boston. But Boston's not a good team. I mean, I know they went on a nice little run and it was nice and cute, but Boston's not that good either. And they're in last place for a reason. I mean, look, I know it's a tough AL East and everyone's over 500, but Boston, they're not someone that strikes me as a threat either.
Yeah, and last but not least, we got the Angels and the Orioles this week. Orioles still playing good ball, and the Angels a couple of games over 500.
Yeah,
Flaps all around.
Yeah, the Angels slowly but surely, but I think this is the Orioles. To me, I feel like this is the Orioles series to lose. I think the Orioles, they have the young squad. They are 100% into it. They have a great manager. Pitching's been iffy, but I love the hitting. How they can move the runners, get big time hits. Like, to me, I feel like the Orioles are in a pretty good spot. And while it's not going to be easy for the Orioles because they do have the Angels that they're playing, I think that this is their series to lose. I think they're better.
They're young and they're fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. And people are questioning whether the Orioles can make a playoff run. I'm like, why?
They were so close last year.
They're so close, and this is without their big gun Trey Mancini, who was the heart and soul of that team.
Yeah.
So then now you have a younger squad who has experience of playing in the major leagues, and then now they know what a playoff race looks like. So now they know they're going to turn it up even more. Like, this is a team that could absolutely make the playoffs.
Yeah, so. And the Angels, Rendon, I know, left the game yesterday with some groin tightness. I haven't heard anything on that, so we'll wait and see on that. But
of course, what's
story
Rendon
of that
without
contract?
what's
Story of that
Rendon without an
contract.
injury?
Oh, all right. That'll do it for this edition of Batter Up, part of the Sports Insanity Network, sponsored by Halpern's Cards and Collectibles. You can follow us social medias, Twitter, which I can now say because I retweeted the fact that we were live before. We are on Twitter at SInsanityReal. Follow Twitter. We're on Facebook. Listen to the podcast, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Check out the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com, for great blogs, logs, planes, trains, and automobiles. But for Dan Ryans, I am Mike Griffin. Thank you for listening to Batter Up, sponsored by Halpern's Cards and Collectibles, part of the Sports Insanity Network. Happy Mother's Day, moms.
Happy Mother's Day. It's a great day. Enjoy your mom. I mean, look, for all those, Mike Griffin, you still have your mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still have my mom. We are lucky.
Yep.
Now, we have moms. there are people out there that are not so lucky. So if you have a mom out there, call her, say I love you. If you're around her, hug her, and just enjoy the time with her. Because again, a lot of people, they ain't that lucky on Mother's Day. So please spend time with your mom.
Love is what makes the world a better place.
Amen.
So
There you go. All righty. Folks, we'll see you later on.